Welcome back to the second part of Len's perspective, which leads me on to this next topic, which is super relevance. The topic is called the surrogate mind. Not so long ago, I walked past an English pub called the Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley is the renowned author of the famous novel Frankenstein. And I had just visited the author's grave just moments before that was situated inside the resting grounds of a church graveyard that was opposite the pub. For a brief moment I stopped and peered through the pub window, and it were as though I was looking into the gorilla pen at the local zoo. It was late Saturday afternoon and the place was loaded with boisterous university youngsters, having a right old jolly up. I was particularly drawn to this small group of people that was sitting down at a table. They weren't talking with each other, they were just gulping at their phone screens. And for that brief moment, I was both amazed and amused that people would actually go out together just to ignore each other. With the advance of handheld technology, it's painfully obvious to see that people are becoming more ignorant of the world that they live in as they clamber deep into the addictive throes of digital stimulation. Undeniably, the majority of people have lost their minds to an artificial reality. Just look around at your environment and you'll see these mindless zombies, these digital drones entranced by their handheld device. And I do find it terribly sad. In particular, I think that the advent of social media has created a social dystopia. People invest more time updating their digital identity than they do upgrading their official self. They've become this administrative slave to a digital identity. They spend more time with online communications than they do with time spent offline to enjoy real-life social interactions. And social media can become a delusional game of self-deception. Most people will create a digital identity that presents just a sliver of who they really are. They will feign happiness, use photo filters, clever angles, witty memes and remarks, just to convey the best image and garner the most attention, without acknowledging the fact that those stage props actually distort the true appearance and character of who they are. Social media really is a vanity mirror where people go to pander for attention, likes and approval, and share posts to get validation and feel good about themselves. For many people, the vain and compulsive need for attention overrides logic and sensibility. And there are many examples of crazy people that will go to absurd lengths to get the attention that they so desperately crave, narcissistically grandstanding to the extent they wildly exaggerate, dramatize, and even catastrophize every life experience as though they were on a reality TV show, being completely over the top just to impress their eager to be pleased audience. When a digital identity does not represent the rawness, realness and wholeness of the self, with all of one's ups and downs and twists and turns and quirks and jerks, then the validation that one receives is disingenuous and only skin deep. It is the hyped up facade, the glory times, the surface story that gets the validation and not the truth of the person deep within. And nothing real and permeable is received when being fake to get it. Social media can, however, be a universal playground for intelligent and enlightening conversation. Most people, however, seem to treat it like a whorehouse for cheap social intercourse, where the art of linguistics has been abbreviated down to the mumble of a stroke victim's drawl. I also think that social media platforms for the most part have become a spiritless livery of stupid parodies, silly pantomimes and plagiarised characterisations where people regurgitate the same dross but served up differently. Furthermore, social media platforms do reflect the state of the collective human psyche. For the most part, social media platforms reflect a lost, lonely, immature, insecure and attention-seeking society. They've become the unregulated dumping grounds for people to offload their psychological woes, the haunting grounds for the unresolved aspects of their shadow self. They are the breeding grounds for social zealots, scathing critics and hunchback trolls. We also seem to think that we're such smart asses because we have smart devices. There is nothing smart about the hyper-addictive info whore who continuously overloads the mind with a variety of content which has no practical value and use in the real world. It's foolish and wasteful. It's just as wasteful as studying for decades to build a car from scratch and then never constructing it in real life. Also, there is nothing smart in taking excessive pride over a digital identity that fictitiously portrays the image of a lifestyle that is contrary to one's actual lifestyle. There is nothing more worthless than dedicating one's time to uploading superficial snapshot moments and recycling posts that have no beneficial impact to the circumstances of your real life. Neither is it smart to digitally program your unconscious aspect with a sporadic mayhem of unrelated, diverse and random content, as this will condition the mind-body to be this incoherent vessel that is convoluted and diluted with diffused information, where brainwashing with mixed data is likely to produce a fickle state of mind, where mixed input gives mixed output. In fact, numerous scientific studies do reveal that consistent absorption of random and short bursts of electronic data erodes the attention span, where one develops a scatterbrain and therefore is unable to sustain a consistent train of thought, where there is a risk of developing attention deficit disorder, whereby the inconsistent mind is unable to commit to a purpose with single-minded focus. It's not good. Not only that, when sucked into a digital vortex of vivid imagery, words and sounds, the prefrontal cortex part of the mind that's responsible for our critical thinking falls into a delightful hypnosis, where the unconscious aspect of the mind is unguarded, wide open and highly suggestible. When suggestible, the unconscious aspect is programmed to subliminally accept whatever it consumes. Subliminal means that information is being received below the threshold of sensation and consciousness, where the mind is being affected by the content that one consumes and without one being aware of it. Also, when continuously downloading content, we are image cycling. Image cycling is a term to describe the process of how the unconscious aspect of the mind is being conditioned by the images that we repeatedly feed it. The content is being encoded into the psychoneurological fabric of the mind-body. Image cycling is perfectly normal and beneficial when consuming purposeful information that cultivates knowledge and skill sets that have practical value in the real world. Sadly, a great deal of people are image cycling with junk media, trivial content that has zilch use in the real world and keeps the intelligence of the person dumbed down. We are what we consume most of the time. The unconscious aspect of the mind will be conditioned with experiences that we repeatedly feed it with. The unconscious aspect of the mind does not discriminate. It will be stimulated by the experience of actual reality or virtual reality, and it will even accept the virtual reality as actual reality. The implications of image cycling with virtual reality are profound. For example, if you regularly watch wildlife documentaries, then you would condition these virtual images into your unconscious aspect as your actual wildlife experience. And with this desire being pacified, you would be less inclined to make a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Africa and less motivated to plan special trips to visit wildlife sanctuaries. If you are, say, an avid fan of major sporting events and using pay-per-view streams to get your sporting interests satisfied, you would then be less enthusiastic to enjoy the atmosphere of live sporting events in person, and less inspired to actually take up the physical sport yourself. If, for example, you are watching sitcoms on a daily basis, then you would condition the unconscious aspect of your mind to accept that as your social life. When satisfying the need to connect on digital platforms, there is less impulse to actually socialize in real life. If you can get the 4D experience from the comfort of your armchair or your handheld device, then why bother to interact with real life? I do think that it's safe to surmise that most people have become digital junkies. The social experiment, it's over, and the results are in. Digital devices are addictive. The addictiveness of digital devices is partially due to the fact that they stimulate the biochemical release of dopamine. Dopamine is the brain's neurotransmitter that releases a rewarding feel-good sensation, and it's the exact same biochemical that amphetamine-type drugs stimulate and give the user that uplifting boost of euphoria. Dopamine is addictive because it has a self-reinforcing uptake then come down cycle. There is heightened mental arousal followed by a diminished state, a nice little buzz followed by a little bust. And it is the downward part of that cycle that triggers a recycle response. So the next time that you have digital screen time, I want you to notice the initial mental stimulation, followed by your focus beginning to wane after a certain time frame. Then I want you to put your digital device down and engage with a different task. Then notice how you experience a mental slump or even a crash, followed by a mild to moderate anxiety, then the impulse to get back on your digital device. This would be the uptake and come down patterns of digital addiction. The dopamine feel-good response that I have just described is why social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and TikTok are super addictive. The business owners of these profit-generating platforms place their advert revenue before your mental health concerns. Through years of trial and testing research, they know that humans are hardwired to feel rewarded by social validation. And to exploit this part of our psychology, they have purposefully configured their platforms with jackpot-style mechanisms that are highly addictive. They know that each time you receive a like, a comment and a red update notification, that you are triggered with a dopamine feel-good buzz, and this keeps you coming back for more. A recent study revealed that upon average, most people fidget their phones or check into their media content around 300 times per day. That's crazy. And if you were to study the behaviour of a drug addict, you would see the same type of dependency fixation where the focus is hyper attentive towards the next hit. Now I want you to recall the last time that you walked out of your home only to realise, damn, I've left my phone indoors. Recall how you experienced that dreadful feeling of panic, and for a second you thought, how on earth am I going to get through my day without this? This is the same kind of intense dread that a drug addict experiences when they are uncertain of getting a fix that day. The withdrawal symptoms of digital addiction can be so severe that if you were to not interact with your device for a week or a whole day even, it is very likely that you would express a similar craving, anxiety and depression to that of a crack addict. And we are even enabling our children to foster digital addictions. A recent nationwide study conducted by Ofsted, which is the UK's Office for Standards in Education for Children's Services and Skills, reported that young children between the ages of 5 to 8 spend between 4 to 6 hours per day on their digital devices. Now, if we take the lesser figure of 4 hours per day, this equates to 14 years of lifetime that these children will spend transfixed to an artificial reality on a digital screen. It then begs the question, how much time are you glued to the life-stealing tube? I do think that device addiction is the most severest global pandemic because it threatens the very essence of what it means to be human. The indisputable fact is that most people have outsourced the power of their mind to the software of their digital device. Most people are wholly dependent on the applications of their device to organise, socialise, communalise and commercialise their entire life, where relationships, social and business affairs are now conducted mostly online, where life without the device is unthinkable, where the digital device has now become a surrogate mind space. With human neurology now dependent on technology, digital devices have become this existential element of the human experience to the point that we are practically cyborgs. To be without the digital device does almost feel like a body part is missing. And with implantable chips and brain-computer interfaces on the cusp of production, the human to cyborg transformation is no longer a sci-fi fantasy. Now, there will be many people that think our integration with technology is a wonderful evolutionary advance. And no doubt it will be the materialistic, the atheistic and the digital dependent folk that opt for transhumanism, not the spiritualists. In my humble view, becoming a cyborg is a sci-fi dystopia. We already know that human experience is less human when augmented with technology, that people become drone-like, robotic, addicted, disconnected and delusional. People do lose their sentient qualities when they've outsourced their official senses to the artificialization of the surrogate mind. I genuinely do think that technology has subverted the human mind away from its ability to function naturally. The digital device does facilitate easement from emotional mental issues and provides a space for people to get pleasurable escapism from a life that is perhaps lackluster, uneventful, boring and problem-orientated. Yet at the same time, the digital device is a Trojan horse that entraps the mind and kills the impetus to expand into new horizons out there. This dependency on digital devices to feel good and be entertained It's to such an unhealthy degree for most people that they're incapable of solitude. The mind is incapable of being content and aroused without its digital surrogate. And not only has the digital device, the surrogate mind, become this substitute for real life experience, it has become a reality distortion. When plugged in 24/7 to a digital reality that is so unlike and so dislocated from the actual reality of the environment that a person lives in, they develop a warped attitude which does not correspond with their actual reality. People do live in two different and incompatible realities that run parallel as their mind darts between actual reality and artificial reality. And with digital devices so widely accepted and normalized, just like those students inside the Mary Shelley pub that I was looking into, it has now become easy and excusable to disconnect from the people that we know in the real world, and even when in their presence. Digital devices have become tools of separation, this invisible wall that allows one to isolate away from others whilst in their close proximity. It is also easy to see how official reality would become uninspiring and dull to the mind in comparison to the stimulation of an artificial reality that beams with technicolor, wonder and variety. People do seem to be more captivated by a digital reproduction of reality on their phone than the experience of actual reality in the present moment of now. Furthermore, people do seem to live their lives vicariously by watching other people on their digital screens. They watch other people live the exciting, interesting and productive life that they don't, because they are too lazy or too busy watching them. If that's not the definition of insanity, I just want you to sit with the absurdity of that for a moment. Sit with the absurdity of someone that's miserable and wondering why their life is so boring and that nothing good ever happens or happens enough, and yet there they are, 4 hours a day plugged into a screen, watching other people live the good life that they're not. And if that's you, and if what I've just said doesn't frighten you, then nothing will. Sadly, vast amounts of people have become the unwitting victims of digital necrophilia, where their device is now screwing over the dead corpse of their lifestyle. The artificial realities that we all incubate within have now become the buffers that prevent us from taking massive action to cultivate a dream life in the real world. When being pacified by the surrogate mind, when addicted to the device, there is less desire, less curiosity, less motivation and less impetus to get out there and make a real difference to your life. I do think that people easily become addicted to a digital device because A, official reality disappoints, especially in comparison to the artificial reality, and B, they lack higher purpose and deeper meaning to their life. C, they just don't know how to actualize their dreams. D, they are disconnected from the creative expression of true nature. And finally, E, without a digital device, the mind is incapable of solitude and incapable of self-regulation, self-soothing and self-stimulation. And even though I've been raging at the machine, I know that technology is a double-edged sword. When moderately utilized for creative and productive means, it is a wise and rewarding investment of one's time and energy. However, when misused and abused by unproductive means that have no lasting benefit and return, technology has then become the weapon of mass distraction. So, do you have an addictive, unproductive, and distractive relationship with your device? Do you suffer from virtual neuroticism, where your mind is obsessing over the digital device and depressed without it? Do you spend most of your time being entertained with trivial content? Do you spend so much time on your device that it causes you to neglect loved ones, your health, financial responsibilities, etc.? Do you lack lifestyle variety, hobbies, novelty and adventure because you are too busy with your device? If you think that digital addiction is an issue for you, put in place measures to adjust your usage. Make an audit of how you interact with your digital device, then make the necessary adjustments to reduce the time spent being unproductive. Reorganize your device interface to incorporate more educational content that relates to the development of your life purpose and future ambitions. Go on a social media diet. Turn off those damn notifications. Switch off the device when not using it. And schedule days off from the device. So make a key decision today that you will no longer play second fiddle to the surrogate mind. Reclaim your psyche from the cyber. And for that, you do need to start cultivating space. Think about it. The obsessive attachments that we have to all formats of mental stimulation has conditioned the mind to crave heightened sensation. Most people today are unable to enjoy the organic sentience of basic senses, which means to enjoy the sensory experience of your life through what you see, hear, taste, touch, without the need for any third-party intervention. Because without the entertaining effects of digital stimulus, the TV, music, social media, etc., in which to pacify and entertain the mind, most people do suffer the withdrawal symptoms of being irritable, withdrawn and a little bit screwy. The compulsive need for heightened sensation can be so overpowering that people struggle to be alone with their mind for prolonged amounts of time without some type of stimulus, without the uplifting aid of that which arouses and entertains the mind. People can suffer the withdrawal symptoms of anxiety and depression. However, when continuously occupied with digital devices to entertain, pacify and distract the mind, we are disconnected from having an intimate and sensual experience with self. To have a deeply intuitive relationship with self, one must be free from those digital distractions so that one can reconnect with their natural senses. Reconnection with the self takes place within the stillness and silence of a stimulus-reduced space. It is within a stimulus-reduced space that one is able to reconnect with their natural senses and attune with the deeper wisdom of true nature. The antithesis of stillness and silence is the imbalanced lifestyle that is hurried and cluttered with the stress of endless responsibilities and tasks. And when we are committed to the ordeal of a fascist routine, we are forcing the mind and body into a disharmonious state. We force ourselves when operating beyond natural capabilities. We force ourselves with deeds that conflict with true nature. We force ourselves when denying negative thoughts and emotions. We force ourselves to achieve a specific outcome on time. We force ourselves into situations prematurely and when we're not prepared. We force ourselves to carry on regardless. We force ourselves when getting into a heightened state of stress. When nature is being forced and stretched beyond its homeostasis, then we operate with imbalance outside of the comfort zone. And of course, for self development. One must step outside of the comfort zone to engage with new activities that are beyond one's current skill sets and natural ability to cope. Yet there is a personal threshold for each person, and that threshold is determined by what is tolerable and manageable within a certain discipline, setting and time frame. By taking on too much, too soon and for too long, we push beyond the personal threshold to cope and trespass into the negative territory of self-harm, which is the painful experience of stress and anxiety. For the balanced and healthy life, it is essential that one finds their personal sweet spot, which is to find balance between the motions of progress and the peacefulness of rest. To realize when there is unhealthy fixation on one particular activity or when there is stimulus overload, and then to ease off and take a cool pause. So always remove yourself from that which has become overwhelming and unmanageable. When feeling that pinch, and before you get to that place of feeling whacked out and overloaded, instead, gradually reduce your commitments and consumptions until you feel at ease, grounded, and life has become simple again, where you can drop back into the present moment to find your peace. To maintain equilibrium, atonement, and contentment, you must also take regular time out from your duties to diagnose and then resolve your negative thoughts and feelings in relation to your ongoing lifestyle issues. You need to find a therapeutic space to decompress from the stress and negative emotions. And by utilizing the psychotherapeutic skills that you've mastered within this program, you now have the tools to resolve the different aspects of your life as they happen. You will be able to continually detox and purify the mind-body from ill thoughts and ill feelings, thus not to accumulate the negative energy of unresolved stress and anxiety. You do need to take out regular check and balance audits of your lifestyle to assess if your actions are improving or degrading the quality of your life. You do need to assess if your lifestyle strategy is the most healthiest, efficient and effective way of achieving the outcomes that you desire. You do need to reorganize your lifestyle to make room for ongoing mental health remedies. Therefore, cultivating a safe space to counterbalance a demanding lifestyle is essential for your mental health and wealth. You do sometimes need to let go of those demands and the drudgery of life so that you can find a ledge, a breathing space, a different place somewhere off in the distance so that you can gain a different perspective and recompose. There needs to be a safe space for you to relax, to recuperate, to love and to be joyful. A space where you can turn off the mind's thinking, let the heart do some feeling and the soul do some healing. The ultimate aim is to cultivate a space to reclaim your sentience, to meditate within the stillness and silence without thinking, where you can rejoice in the unadulterated sensory experience of pure beingness. Pure beingness is where the peacefulness and blissfulness is at, where you are attuned to the ecstasy of life. Which brings me to the final topic, which is life is what you imagine it to be. Life is what you imagine it to be. It always has been. That's because everything that you are and have done up until now corresponds with the self-image that you embody. Your self-image is the personalized imprint of a lifetime's worth of experience, the personal memories, the internalized wisdom, knowledge, skill sets and identity that affirms the type of man or woman that you think you are and the life that you think you are worthy of. The self-image is your homeostasis, a default mode and the limiter of what you believe in terms of your self-worth and capabilities. You will always manifest a life that corresponds with the attributes and qualities of that self-image, no better or worse. Even when making lifestyle changes to improve your circumstances, if those changes are sudden and without earnest, the self-image will have not yet acclimatized with the change, and so who you are, your default mode, will start to feel uncomfortable with that change. These have it before you've earned it situations, if you will, where you have embarked on a transformational or lifestyle change without mentally and emotionally preparing yourself for it, is the reason why you would be triggered by self-sabotaging behaviour. And we see the extreme versions of self-sabotage with people that have won huge lotteries or have that overnight fame of celebrity status, and then they go into a quick meltdown and then slide into oblivion. That's because people unconsciously scupper progress and even success when it does not resonate with the self-image of who they think they are. People self-sabotage when they can't handle the type of attention, choices and territory that they are not familiar and comfortable with. Lifestyle changes therefore must incorporate a self-image that is ready and adaptable to change. We must have a higher self-image, this strong mentality that makes you visualize, think and feel that you are worthy of being and having something far greater than now in order for you to achieve and then sustain that worthier goal. And we can all upgrade our self-image with the power of imagination. Imagination is our spiritual asset, this higher dimensional power, a mind portal and cosmic key that unlocks the universal intelligence of all that ever was, is and will be. When engaged with unfiltered imagination, you transcend the limitations of a conditioned mind to access the unlimited playground of imagined creativity. The creative imagination is how we envisage different timelines and new realms of possibility. If what you imagine aligns with your true nature, where the heart and soul is truly immersed inside your imagination, then you will access the spiritual blueprint and knowingness of your deeper intelligence within. You'll get a clairvoyant preview of what's to come. You will be endowed with the prescience of your future. You will instantly know that it's a preview of your future because the imagery will be so vivid and intense and feel so unmistakably life-affirming. When utilizing the power of imagination to preview a future that aligns with true nature, you can actually internalize its emotional charge and vision to imprint and reconfigure the self-image that you embody. You can image cycle through repetition that vision and feeling, which is to say, when you repetitively imagine and feel the same thing over and over again, this will both update and recondition your self-image. You can update the default mode of who you are with the imagined potential of who you can be with image cycling. You can then start moving towards the activities that will manifest its tangible equivalent, and with you feeling worthy and self-assured every step of the way. Unfortunately, most people have lost touch with the power of their imagination. That's because we do live in a thinker's world that demands we become avid thinkers. Most people have settled into a conventional lifestyle that has conditioned the mind with repetitive thinking. It's the same thinking, yet a different day, where creative imagination has become inessential and redundant. The mind has been hijacked by the digital reality, whereby the images that flash across the digital device have captivated, subverted, and substituted the actual imagination, where people have outsourced their imaginative powers to a digital reality, where people are imprinting with the digital images of other people's imaginations on the digital screen. And then they imitate what they see, albeit with a slight distinction. They are playing the same mind games, albeit with a different twist. And when you are habituated to consuming the same information and living the same reality, it reinforces the same self-image that continues to imagine the same lifestyle experiences. Therefore, take a good look at the different areas of your life and ask yourself, am I creating new experiences here or not? Am I imagining the worst or best possible outcome for myself? Now look within and ask, is the person I imagine myself to be someone that I am loathing or loving? Because for better or worse, your entire life is whatever you've imagined it to be. Therefore, why not start to imagine a reality that invigorates the soul with panache and verve? Why not imagine a life that aligns with your greatest dreams? There are no limitations to what you can imagine and then manifest. And with the Mind Games exclusive program, I have shown you how to unlock your imagination and start playing different mind games to your advantage. You've learned how to find peaceful resolution within. You've learned how to experience reality with a deeper meaning and higher purpose. You've learned how to engage with the imagination to design these divine archetypes that will cultivate the life that you truly desire. You've learned how to take self-control and be the master of your own ship, the El Capitano. You've learned that the game of life is only as good as the mind games that you play. You've learned to cultivate mental wealth. You are the game changer, so start playing the type of games that you enjoy playing. Become who you are destined to be. Dare to imagine the greatest life possible and don't be afraid to climb to its highest summit. Let intuitive wisdom guide you towards your true destiny. Take courage and walk into the great unknown, because you will find that it is in the unknown places of life that you will truly feel alive and that miracles do occur. Because the miracle of you is ready to unfold.